There are some who would argue that we cannot manage climate change unless we stop growing, and I think that's a mistake. Let me just be slightly numerical to illustrate that. We are emitting as a world 50 or 51 gigatons a year of CO2 equivalent, all greenhouse gases, all sources. That's what we're emitting 2014-15. We need to get that down to about 20 or below by the middle of the century, and net zero really, or close to zero during the second half of the century. The extent to which we fail to do that in the early part of the period means we'll have to do more in the later part of the period if we are to have a reasonable chance, say 50-50, of holding to 2 degrees centigrade, which is the temperature increase, or global average surface temperature increase, relative to the usual benchmark, which is the end of the second half of the 19th century. It's absolutely clear that if we stopped growth altogether, that didn't change the way we do things, we couldn't come anywhere near what we have to do. Zero growth wouldn't get anywhere near tackling this problem. What we have to do is to make fundamental change in the way we consume and produce, so that we bring right down the greenhouse gas emissions from our consumption and production activities. And that's what we have to do. And what we've seen in research I've been involved with, others have been involved with over these last few years, that transition to the low carbon path is going to be enormously attractive. Much less congested, much less polluted, much less wasteful, much quieter, much cleaner, but at the same time, in order to do that, full of innovation, investment and growth. The big technological changes that we have to make are going to bring, like earlier waves of technological change, exactly that, in innovation, investment and growth. So this change that we're looking for, this breaking the link between economic activity and the emissions of greenhouse gases and damage to the environment more generally, that's the fundamental thing that we have to do. And doing it will actually bring growth of a better kind. So the idea that somehow we have to stop sort of misses the point. In the first place, it wouldn't be enough. And the second, you'd lose all that creativity and better way of living. So I don't go with those who say we'd stop growth. And on top of what I've argued in terms of the logic, I would make a further point, which is that the politics of doing that is hopeless. If you are going to persuade the poor people of the world, countries that are just starting to grow, that sorry fellas and ladies, the story's over, we're not doing growth anymore, they're not going to take you terribly seriously. You'll lose that argument, and in losing that argument you'll damage our ability to move forward on the real agenda, which is breaking the link between our economic activities and the damage to the environment, including via climate change.